name's Julia Holzer.
And Kelly Kay from TuffCutsTV.
And tonight we're going to be interviewing O Pioneers for CJLO's View from the Venue. O Pioneers started in 2004. How did that specifically come about?
I went to high school overseas, and where I went to high school there wasn't really a lot of punk kids, and I was at that time kind of getting heavier and heavier into punk. And I really, again, just go back to the previous question, I wanted to do something, whether it was set up shows, be in a band, whatever it was. And at that time there really wasn't anything going on where I was. So when I moved back to the States after high school, it took me a little bit, but I finally convinced a friend of mine to start playing, and that's kind of where this band started. And a lot of it had to do with like bands like Against Me, and like Defiance Ohio and Ghost Mice and stuff like that. And just again, seeing people that were just doing it, and seeing it didn't take much, and just taking what you had and making that work. And that's kind of how Pioneers started. That's why we started as a two-piece, and that's kind of where it all came from.
Great. You're doing a farewell tour instead of like just announcing a breakup on the internet and like disappearing off the face of the earth like some bands do.
Yeah.
Not going to name names. What made you decide to take this route instead of the less appealing alternative?
Well, like I said, we all love hanging out with one another, and we had the opportunity to do one of the Latterman reunion shows, and they're good friends of mine as well as a band that I really, really like a lot. So I didn't want to like throw away that opportunity to do that. And I also kind of wanted, this tour is like twofold. It's like one, to say goodbye, and then two, to like say, this is like our new band and this is what we're doing, and play a song or two from that. So we just figured that if we announce it this way, it'll make people excited to come and see songs maybe that they like or they heard and they liked, and then be able to show them, our new songs. And if they're into it, cool. If they're not, that's cool too. But hopefully it just, allows people to be excited one last time if they were for this band.
O Pioneers are obviously a little bit infamous for rotating lineups constantly. People like they talk about those situations like they're the end of the world. Is there anything that was like really positive about that ever?
At this point, like reflecting back on it, yes. But again, it goes back to me just being able to see my friends, and the fact that like I was able to do this band with Junior Battles and now with New Bruises and Senders too. Like, those are my closest friends, and I live very far away from them, and so it's that I get to hang out with them, and so I wouldn't trade that for anything, because I never get to see them. When I do, it's for a day at a time, and now I get to be in a situation where I'm with them for 2 to 3 weeks straight. It just makes it awesome. And if those other people hadn't have quit, these friends would not have been able to step in and do it. So that's been, I guess, a positive of it for sure.
Sweet. You've done a lot of splits as well as your full lengths. Is there any particular recording you feel attached to that you've done?
I'm beyond amazed with the recording that is on the Ajax and Jihad split. There's actually the last 3 songs that we recorded as a band. It was done in Toronto, and I don't know. I think the songs are really, really well written, and has nothing to do with me. It's everything with Junior Battles being in the band, and also they're probably the best recorded songs that we have too. So those 2 things, on top of it being a split with Ajax and Jihad and being on No Idea, just like make it the best record for me.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Great. What's the weirdest place you've played at?
Hands down, Muncie, Indiana. It's like this small town in Indiana, small weird college town, and it was like just this house party that we played that just turned into this like insane underage party, like tons of drugs everywhere, like young girls walking around saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna get roofied tonight," and like, but being like excited about it, and just really, really strange and uncomfortable.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
it was wild.
Like crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's the thing
God.
is like it's just a very small town where like I feel like, no offense to anyone in Muncie, but when you're there, you just feel like no one is leaving that town. Like they're stuck there, and people just got wild. And I mean, if that's the thing, cool. But like it was definitely uncomfortable and weird. But one of those tour experiences that you look back on it, and even though it was insane, it's still like a great story.
For sure.
Yeah, that was definitely the weirdest place ever.
I've always wondered, so I have to ask, what's up with the 3 exclamation points? Were you just really stoked when you got it going?
Kind of, like the original idea for the name was to have it kind of be like a bummer name, so it was actually supposed to be spelled OH, pioneers, as in like not them again type of situation. But the person I was playing with at the time decided he wanted it to be a little bit more exciting, and we didn't want to just do 1 exclamation mark because Against Me already had claim to that,
Yeah.
And so we thought if we added 2 more, it made it look like we were like really excited. Which, when you start your first band and you're doing tours and stuff, like you are really excited about everything, and that's kind of where it came from.
That's cool. So talk to me about touring life. Is there something in particular you enjoyed doing with Oak Pioneers, or were you more about like the writing and recording sort of?
Well, I mean, like because there's been so many people in the band, like every tour and every kind of time we write has been completely different. Like the people that are in the band now are some of my closest friends. They play in this band Knee Bruises and in this band Senders as well. And so when we get together, it's more of just like hanging out, having a good time. Like it really, honestly, like coming to the shows is like the worst part about the tour when we're when we're on tour together, because we just get along so well that it's just like a mini vacation for us. Like we just do tons of fun stuff, and like we just enjoy each other's company so much that it makes touring that much more fun because we get to share something like this together. So like for us, we're a little bit different than most other bands because I don't really view us as like a full-time band. Like I feel like we are very active, but again, it's mostly so we can just get together, the 5 of us, and hang out. Like that's like really what it comes down to. And when we tour, it's just more about going to places that we like, that have people that we like a lot, or have food that we like a lot. Like those are usually our 2 like main goals when we go on tour. Like, all right, when we're like routing it out, like where can we go eat, and who do we know in town that we can hang out with?
That's great. It's like a mini vacation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it boils down to, and like it honestly makes tour so much less stressful and just fun.
There's none of that like, man, I hate that guy, I can't stand him.
Yeah, I mean we all get along really, really well, and I mean there's problems on every tour, but it's just kind of like being in a position too where like we can take care of them as they happen if in the event something happens, like it makes it like pretty awesome too.
Any like funny, interesting stories you want to like talk about that you're allowed to talk about?
No, I mean for the most part we're pretty tame. Like like I don't really party. Brian doesn't party at all. And like we just kind of, like I said, we like to have fun, like make our own adventures and like come up with like fun games. Like can we, give each person $5 a day, and like can you not spend it? Like total nerdy game, you know what I mean? Like, but still fun to us nonetheless. But nothing like too crazy or exciting. Like when we crossed the border today, one of the people with us definitely had like a razor blade in his passport, so that was like pretty cool. Like pulling up to customs and them being like, "Why is there a razor blade in your passport?" But that's like the extent of our craziness.
It's pretty.
We're pretty tame. Like I said.
Any tour you've done in the past that's like really stuck out to you? Like what made it special?
Yeah, I mean like pretty much all the tours that I've done with guys in Knee Bruises and Senders of the band has been awesome. Like I said, because it's like just like hanging out and really good time. Same thing with like Junior Battles when they were playing with me too. Like those are some of my closest friends, and I never get to see them because I live so far away. So any time spent with them is just like awesome. But before that, we did like a month-long tour that was just like show after show, just with awesome bands, and it was, I don't know, it was a great time. Like the only bummer about that tour is that's like the tour that we like wrecked our van, that kind of sucked. But the tour itself was awesome, and we did the tail end with Against Me, and then like the beginning was just like with friends, and I can't even remember how many great shows there were because they were honestly all awesome. So it was pretty cool.
I was actually going to ask you about the van incident, or like what happened with that.
We had just finished a tour and we were actually driving, so my fiance and I could go to an airport, and our GPS kind of took us like all these like crazy routes, and we somehow were just like, oh, we've gone this far, we're just going to keep doing it, and the roads just kept getting crazier and crazier, and the weather was really bad. And what eventually happened is after going through all these mountains that with like fresh coats of snow, we were just driving on a road, like a straight flat road, and we hit black ice and lost control of the van. And while trying to regain control, the van just like felt like just tipped over, and we rolled it twice. So it's pretty crazy. But thankfully, no one was hurt. All the equipment was totally fine, and like super lucky.
No kidding.
Super lucky.
So you talked about breaking up Old Pioneers in the past. Why now?
It just kind of felt like it was time to do it. The 5 of us that are in the band now wrote and recorded a song that we were doing for like a split with our friend Tiger's Jaw, and we kind of just decided that sonically it just was way different than anything that Pioneers has done in the past, and we kind of felt like maybe this would be a good time to kind of take a step back and maybe just start something new and allow it to kind of grow on its own instead of people already judging it before they heard it. Because I feel like a lot of people associate this band with how we sounded when we first started, which is totally fine if that's if that's what they want to associate us with. That's cool, but it's not like that anymore. We went from being a weird kind of semi-folk punk band with a guitar and a drummer to now just kind of being this really loud and noisy punk rock band with 3 guitars and some shows 2 drummers. So it's just drastically changed to the point where it's not the same band anymore. And even though the new songs that we're writing and that we have written may sound similar, I personally feel like there's enough of a difference that let's try and let this stand on its own instead of having to rely on this kind of history that I've built over the past 7 or 8 years of doing this band. So after we kind of came to that conclusion, it was real easy to be like, oh, okay, then let's just try something new and see what happens.
Is there anything in particular you're gonna miss most about doing the Old Pioneers, or is it full speed ahead?
Yeah. I mean, we're done. Like as soon as this tour is done, we're like immediately starting to write for the record for that. So, and that's the funny thing too is like with doing a band with the same people, nothing is really gonna change. Like it's all gonna be the same. And I don't know, it's just super exciting in the future, because of that. So since it's still the 5 of us, it just makes it just as exciting, just as fun.
What can we expect from you next? Do you have a name?
We do. It's called Black Clouds, and the first thing that's coming out for that is going to be a split with Tiger's Jaw. I don't know when it's coming out. The songs are all recorded though, and I know it's coming out for Run for Cover, and I think it's going to be a split single-sided 12-inch record. I think that's the plan, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, other than that, like nothing just yet. Like I said, as soon as this tour is done, we're going to start writing, and hopefully in the next couple months we'll be able to figure out what we're going to do and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Make something new and exciting.
Yeah,
awesome.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
That's a great
Thanks for doing
interview.
this. Thank you.
What's the name?
Fuck. That's okay. It's okay though. All right.
Then you could be like, what are we asking
we need to get the boosting tape.
She's yelling at me.
Okay.
My first day. Fuck you, man.